So I just bought a new car. I've had it for a couple of weeks. I did have a Suzuki Vitara, but before that I've had a few sort of performance cars. I've had a couple of Subaru Imprezas and Focus ST 170s, and pre that I had a few hot hatches when I was a lot younger, you know, GTIs and stuff like that. So I got fed up with sort of driving around with the soft roader that rolled round corners and was a bit dull. It did the job. It was a lovely car actually, the Vitara, but it was just unnecessary for me. I didn't need all the space anymore, and you know, I've only got the little dog that I sometimes put in the back. I wasn't carrying much stuff around, you know, for work now. I use the works van, so I just need this for running about. And I had a look at what was, you know, popular, and I wanted something a bit nippy and a bit fun. And a lot of the press were talking about these STs, the Fiestas. And I'd been in a Focus ST, one of the older models, and you know, I wasn't expecting great things out of this car, but I've got to say, you know, average guy. I'm not like a massive car enthusiast. I just enjoy driving. I haven't got loads of money to spend, so I was looking for something in the, you know, between 20 and 30 grand. So I picked this up for 21 with about 11k on the clock. It is the ST3 21 plate, and it came with the performance pack. Now the performance pack was something that all the journalists had said, you know, make sure you've got that, because it's got the Quaife LSDs or whatever, the limited slip, that help you get around corners, so it makes corners a bit more fun. Plus it's got the launch control, and it's got a shift light on it. I wasn't too bothered about the launch control and the shift light. I can't see myself using those, although I do have a go with that, and I'll splice that in, but it's not something I could see myself using on a regular. So that was launch control. And you know, I thought, okay, well, we'll go for the performance pack just for the fact that it's got the Quaifes in it, and we'll see how we get on. Because it was second hand, obviously it's got 11k on it. It did happen to have the 18-inch alloys, which I think are an optional extra. The only downside to those is you do end up spending out quite a lot on tyres. They come with the Michelin Pilot Sport 4s, and those are a 205 40 18, and it's the tire size that really makes them a little bit expensive, because, you know, if they were 225s, you'd probably knock about 30 or 40 quid off per corner, because they're a lot more common. But this has been set up for the 205s. I know you can put 225s on these. I've seen people do that. From what I can understand, you might lose a little bit in fuel consumption, a small amount. And, you know, it's obviously been set up for the 205s, so Ford have gone to a lot of work to do all the suspension and everything specifically for that tyre size. So it's kind of not something I wanted to mess with, to be honest, but that is an option for people if that's what they want to do. If you've got comments on that, leave them below. Other than that, it had the B&O sound system upgrade, so I'm going to run through the sound system and the Sync 4 setup, you know, an Android Auto. This is actually the best sound system I've had by far in any car, just because of ease of use. You know, I've had crazy stuff when I was younger with sub bass and Alpine systems and all that. I'm not into that anymore. I just want something with good sound quality, but most of all, that's really easy to use, that when I plug my phone in, it just accepts it, you know, and everything's obvious as to what it does, and it's easy to utilize the functions of your phone. The Vitara had Android Auto, but the trouble is with that, it would only work about 3 times out of 5 when you plugged it in, and you had to turn the engine off, let it sit for 30 seconds, because if you turned it immediately back on, it hadn't actually booted down the audio equipment. So it would still be kind of on in the background, and then nothing would change, and you had to get it all, you know, completely shut down, restart the car, and then it would find Android Auto. And that was a real pain, because if you're on a journey and, you know, you stopped off at a garage to get fuel and you went back on the motorway, and so you forgot that could happen, you know, you connect up your Android Auto and you'd be waiting for it to kick in with the sat nav, and it just wouldn't happen. And then you would have to either find somewhere to pull over or revert to the sat nav in car, which I didn't prefer. This sat nav's actually pretty reasonable, but we'll go all through that in a minute. I'm going to take a drive. I'm heading to the gym, so I'll have a chat while I'm there. Now, someone's fitted this also with forward assist for parking, so that's what you can hear beeping there. Just pulling out the drive. Make sure the sound system doesn't suddenly kick in. No, I think that's all off. So when these start up, you know, they start up in normal mode. So if you left it in one of the others, which we'll go through in a sec, you know, it's just all starts in normal. And in normal mode, one of the things I like about this is the fact that it will drop down to, it's a 3-cylinder 1.5 litre turbo, but it will actually drop down to a 2-cylinder if your revs are low in normal mode. And it will also make sure the exhaust isn't making too much of a racket. So if you just want to drive around, save a bit of money on fuel and be a bit sedate, you can. I'm averaging at the moment 37.4 miles per gallon, and that's driving it sensibly. I'm pretty sure if I was doing some long journeys, motorways and stuff, I could probably get that up to, you know, low 40s, but this is just B roads and to and from work, that kind of thing. So driving sensible, 37.4. If I drive it real hard, which I did for the first week, obviously just messing around, then you're looking at more like low 30s, you know, if you're really smashing it all over the place. But yeah, that's one of the reasons I bought this, other than the fact it had such good reviews, is because I didn't want something that was going to be crazy like my Subaru Imprezas were. You know, they were absolutely insane on fuel consumption. They could go as low as sort of 15, 16 miles a gallon, which I really didn't enjoy, and especially not these days when fuel costs so much money. And one of the things that surprised me about this was just the speed and the agility around the bends. You know, on the B roads and stuff like that, I couldn't believe how nippy it was. I'll take a little detour actually, so we can have a bit more time in the car, because otherwise we'll just get straight to the gym. But yeah, so quick around the B roads, and to be honest, it rivaled, you know, the Imprezas I had were like 3,500 horsepower jobs, big powerful cars, and for fun and for nipping around those B roads, this rivals those Imprezas, because it handles around the B roads like a go-kart. You know, you can really chuck it around the corners. So let's stick it into sport mode. You'll be able to hear the difference. So it's normal, now sport. Probably better with the window done up. You know, it's got really sharp throttle response. So I was actually very surprised. You know, I bought this a couple of weeks ago, and I was just thinking, you know, I wanted something smaller, I wanted something a bit sporty, and I wasn't thinking it was going to be too exciting. I thought it would be like my Focus ST 170, which was an alright car, but it wasn't you know, setting the world on fire or anything. That was the like the Mark 1 shaped Focus. But this thing, man, it is crazy fast, or it feels crazy fast. running on 18-inch alloys, which I think are an option. I think the standard is 17s. It's an inverse camber here, so we've got to be a bit careful. People always end up in the ditch over there, so we don't want to be one of those guys. But yeah, it just sticks around these twisties. I mean, what you'll find is that pretty much every car in front of you, you end up, if it's these tight country roads, you just catch everyone. And it just pulls around those bends. It's just great fun to get around corners. And in the low gears, it's got so much grunt. I mean, I was actually surprised even in the higher gears, you know, it just wants to pull loads of torque in them all. For a 1.5 little turbo engine, it's absolutely phenomenal. You know, it's really a credit to kind of engine technology and advancement, because I've been used to most of my life driving sort of 2 litre, you know, turbos and stuff, and I can't believe they managed to cram all this into such a small engine, all this performance. Absolutely planted, and because of its size, it's just more fun factor, you know. Like sometimes on little English B roads with those Subarus, especially the modded ones, you know, if you were waiting for them to spool up and they would suddenly deliver all this crazy horsepower, by the time you knew it, you're at the next bend, and it was just kind of too much horsepower for the small roads. Whereas this seems just perfect for these little English B roads where you can just smash it around, and you know, it just seems to be set up absolutely perfect for that. I'm sure if you were in America or something and you had like really wide long roads, you know, it probably would be a lot less fun, but for the kind of things we drive on here, it's brilliant. And for a lot of the European countries, you know, if I was going touring around some mountain regions in France or Italy or something like that, this would be such a good fun little car to take, and you wouldn't be costing yourself the earth in fuel. So I'm just taking it easy at the moment. It's a bank holiday weekend, so we're not going to be able to go too crazy. There's just too many people around. Probably lots of police around as well, so I don't want to be getting points on my license. I've still got a clean license, so I didn't have points on my license now for about 20 years was the last time I had points on my license. So I'm a good boy. I get good prices on insurance. Now, I'm not used to the insurance groups these days. I haven't kept track of them. I'm 47 and I've got you know, full no claims discount. I've got about 15-16 years of no claims discount, but I think they sort of say after 9 it doesn't really matter too much. No claims of convictions, and you know, normal job, all that kind of stuff. I live in a sort of semi-rural area, so I'm not in like a hugely busy area or anything. And my quotes for this are coming out around between, if I pay about a £500 excess, then, or I put in a £500 excess, my quotes are around 240, and if I lower that excess to what I would call more reasonable, around 250, then the quotes go up to about £270, and that is social, domestic, business, commuting, so it's the full works, you know, based on around 10,000 miles a year. So I think that's pretty good considering the performance of this car and the desirability of it. That, you know, it's obviously something that people want to nick, so I think that's a pretty good price on insurance. Road tax £180 a year, which again, no big deal. You're going to pay more than you would if you were driving around in like a Prius or whatever. You know, I'm not particularly into this whole electric car revolution. I'm not like anti climate change, or, you know, all that stuff. That's fine. I agree that there's probably climate change going on, but I do not think that there's any necessity to go all electric, considering that where does the electricity come from? you know, we're not completely self-sufficient. Not everything's wind powered and solar powered. We're going to be absolutely years before that even comes into play. And I think we've already seen it in the last couple of years where they've kind of jumped the gun on that kind of thing, and they've had to open back up coal mines and stuff to support energy, and now we're all paying massively more for our energy bills. And the thing is, people are saying, oh, we've got to save the planet, what's going to happen in 100 and 150 years time? But if you look at this last winter gone, you know, how many excess deaths were there of elderly people that are sat in freezing cold houses because they can't afford to pay for food and fuel? And you know, some of that is caused by this kind of knee-jerk reaction to these green policies, a lot of which I believe is politicized, and you know, people that are sort of almost like a religious fervor, you know, getting into it without maybe asking some of the bigger overarching questions about the environment, because it's not just about carbon emissions. There's much more to the equation than that. But as usual, people don't want to actually solve the complex problems. They just want to give it a, you know, a simplistic name and a simplistic solution, and then make some money out of that. Anyway, enough of me ranting about that kind of thing. Talking of which, you know, these both the Focus and Fiesta have now been discontinued by Ford. I think they made the last ones about a month ago, and now what's left in the showrooms is what will go out, and that's because they're preempting, you know, this electric market, and these two types of vehicles do not lend themselves to being converted to electric vehicles, so these will be gone. So if you want a Focus or a Fiesta and you want to ensure you've got something that runs on reliable petroleum or diesel for the next few years, now is the time to jump in and get one. I do wonder what will happen to the prices. You know, will they become desirable and go up or hold their value better, or will petrol vehicles like this in the next few years start to really devalue for whatever reason? Maybe the government will heavily tax them, etc. So yeah, nice exhaust sound. You know that it's pulling for sure, and it sounds pretty good, a lot of fun, but not overly ridiculous. And it does sort of spit and sputter sometimes, which is nice to hear, but not so much that it's, you know, embarrassing. Like, I've got to go to work and stuff in this. It can't be like having a Fast and Furious escapade in the car park, you know. So sport mode, it will not drop into that 2-cylinder mode in sport mode. So if you're trying to be frugal, keep it in normal mode. And yeah, I'm back into normal now. So the fuel's at 39.8 miles per gallon. Because I'm trying to keep track of it if I drive it nice and sensibly for a week or so, what it does. But I've got a feeling it's going to sit around 40. It's pretty intuitive, the driving experience of this. You know, it flashes up at you the current road speed, so it's telling me now we're on a 50 mile per hour road. That's flashing up, and it also flashes up if you need to change up a gear, so it's basing that on what's the most fuel efficient. It's got keyless unlocking, so if I just put my hand on there, it will unlock, and if I touch my thumb on there, it will lock. And all you've got to do is have your keys on you. Obviously when it locks, it also automatically folds the mirrors in, and then to unlock again, I just touch that. So that's nice and easy. It's got LED lights on, so nice body kit. It's obviously got, what you notice is the red calipers on there, discs all round. They're not grooved and vented or anything, but like I said when I was driving, you know, they do have some good stopping power. They're certainly enough for what I do. Blacked out windows on the rear. Again, you know, the body kit, spoiler and stuff. I actually think this looks really nice. I've heard some people moan a bit and say, you know, they didn't like the look of these, and they thought that Ford had kind of ruined things a bit, but I think they look awesome. So we've got nice Ford Performance logos on there. It's I haven't hoovered it out for this, so there's a tiny bit of dirt and muck in there. And then we can see we've got the metal pedals. And then what I like most is this one has the Recaro seats on it. Really, really nice seats. They really hug around the body, and you know, I'm a fairly big guy upper body wise, and I just find these are so comfortable. They're not electrical adjust. I think on some Fiesta models you can get electrically adjustable seats, but on these they are, you know, just manual adjust. You've got like a height adjustment, and then the, you know, the thing that pushes into your back, I can't remember the name of that, the bolster I think it's called, and then you've got backwards and forwards adjustment as well, and then of course tilt. But yeah, there's not a massive amount of room in the back, and I don't know if you can make out the back. I've actually got the seats down in there because I've got a dog thing in there. I'll just open up the boot so we can have a quick look in there. Now, one of the reasons I bought this car is because I don't have a huge amount of need for, you know, any massive space or anything in the boot anymore. So it's normally just me in it. So I've just got my dog thing in there, and then I've got a camera bag as well, but plenty of space for me. And like I say, I just keep the rear seats down. I've got my gym equipment and stuff in the back, but you know, anything I need, I can get into that space no problem, and I just don't have people sitting in the back of my car, so that's really not an issue. Okay, so let's have a little look at the Sync 3, the B&O system, and the Ford Sync 3. What we got here, so to turn everything on, we've just got that ignition engine start there. So if we press that, if you press it with the clutch in, we've got parking sensor going off, turn that off. If you press it with the clutch in, it will start the engine. If you just press it on its own, it will just fire up the dash and the entertainment system, infotainment system, however you want to say it. So that starts off loading up with all the basics on there. That's your kind of start screen. So it's got its nav. That was what it was on last, I think. But we go here, we've got audio, really good sound system on here. So you can either control that, you've got volume dials down here, volume and tuning, or you've got them on the steering wheel as well. Really good sound. And then you've got a button here which will allow you to make adjustments to your treble, bass, balance and all that kind of stuff. But very easy to operate. So you've got your back, your play, pause and forward on there. And this one is an interesting one. If the screen's causing you any grief, you know, certain lighting or whatever, you can either switch it over to just a big clock and date, or you can turn it off altogether. That just cycles through. So then we got phone. So it's attached to my phone at the moment, connected to the phone. That was super easy. I don't even know if I even connected it. I think it just like connected itself. I can't even remember setting that up. But that will take you through recent calls, contacts. That will allow you to make phone calls. My phone's called Bertha, in case you're wondering. That's just what I called it for the Bluetooth, because we both in the house got the same phone, so I had to give it a name. That'll allow you to change the phone over. Do not disturb obviously stops the phone from hassling you if you don't want to be bothered while you're driving, etc. Phone keypad, text messages. Text messages I really like because that's super easy to navigate. So clearly shows them all. And then if you want to hear one,
your XJ item from China is on its way.
So nice and easy to sort out. And then phone voice assistant, which to be honest I don't use much, but obviously you can control the phone with voice command, and if you tap it, it just, I can then say something. It's probably going to now say it doesn't understand me. So yeah, obviously I didn't give it a command, so it doesn't know what I'm talking about. We've got our navigation there, which is nice and easy. Again, I don't use that often because I generally use Android Auto, but it's nice to have it as a backup. Apps is if there's certain mobile apps which will actually connect through to this. I don't have those apps. I don't know which ones they are, but there are a few specific apps that you can connect through without using Android Auto. And then that takes you through to the settings, which again is very, very easy to navigate. One of the interesting settings I should mention on here are a couple of them. Automatic updates, so that will actually allow you to connect to the Wi-Fi. You know, you can put all your Wi-Fi details in there, so I can connect my house Wi-Fi if I'm close enough to the router, and then it will automatically update the system software. You also, depending on which year of car you've got, some of them will have their own built-in modem, and that will give you like a limited amount of time for connectivity, and that runs out and you then have to pay whoever your carrier is. I think in the UK it's generally Vodafone, and you have to pay them to continue turning this into like a modem connected car. It's not something I use because, like I say, I can connect to Wi-Fi. I don't need hotspot connectivity when I'm traveling. My phone's got free data anyway. And then the other one is this one, Ford Pass Connect, which is pretty interesting because you can actually lock and unlock the car from anywhere, just based on, you know, being obviously connected to the internet somewhere, and you can just action the app on your phone. It will lock or unlock the car. In some models, not this one, but I think from what I understand, it's from the ones with the auto gearboxes, which I don't even know if you can get the ST in an auto variant, but the Fiestas with the auto boxes, I've heard you can also turn the engine on and off via that app, which is pretty cool. So you could sort of fire that up if it was a cold day or whatever. But not something I've got on here. But what Ford Pass Connect does give you, it gives you a load of information about the car. You can update your service records and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty damn useful. So then let's plug in Android Auto. So I've got a quad lock case on the side there. Just plug the wire into the phone. Okay, so if we go there, that's your basic Android Auto screen for those of you who haven't seen it. What I like about this system is it hasn't let me down yet. Like I said, on the Vitara, sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. This just fires up every time. It takes a little a second or two to make the connection, but it never fails me. It always fires up. So we've got the various different apps that will pull through to Android Auto there. I use Audible quite a bit. Some people like Spotify, I don't listen to that much. I use VLC Media Player for all my music. So if we go on there, you can see I've got my music on there. And I can go through all my playlists, library, etc, etc. So it's a really good way of keeping music on in the car. Plenty of tracks on there, and just update them on my phone when I need to. And then of course we've got Google Maps, which is generally what I use because I like the fact it's just updating all the time in real-time information, you know, and it's got up to the minute sort of travel info. If there's a big jam up ahead, it shows it pretty quick on Google Maps, whereas I can't guarantee that the third-party ones are going to be that effective. Okay, so that's the system there. If we move around the dash, come down, we've got aircon, heated seats, demisting the windows, heated steering wheel, and all very, very easy and self-explanatory, nicely marked out. We've got a 12-volt down there. We've got the USB here, which obviously I'm running the Android Auto into. Would be nice for Android Auto to just have a wireless ability to do that. I think that will be the next big thing. You've got a wireless charger down there, so you just stick your phone on that. I actually have to take mine out of the case for it to work, which is a bit of a pain, but that's not the car's fault. That's to do with my case and phone. The only thing I would change is I wouldn't have that on this side. I would have it on that side, swap those around, because being on this side, I've actually had to run a longer lead all the way around the back and then down there. And if you don't, and you just have a lead coming out here, it tends to kind of get annoying with the gear stick, because you would probably not got your phone up here somewhere. There's not enough space, so you're going to have a phone over here, or you would have it laying in here, and if the lead's coming through there, it's just kind of getting in the way of the gears. So that, personally, I wouldn't put the USB there, but a small thing really. Down here we've got our mode selection, which takes us normal, sport and track. We spoke a little bit about those earlier. ESC off, so that will, you know, limit your traction control situation. And then that is your automatic engine on and off, so that would be used, you know, if you didn't want the car to shut the engine off and kind of save fuel for whatever reason. And some people actually imagine that their engine on and off isn't working properly. It is probably working properly. It's just that if your battery's low at all, or it's really, really cold outside, that system will automatically not work until the battery has come up to a high level of charge, or until it's warmer outside, and that's just to save battery power. So if we turn this on again, put the front parking sensor off, that's like a third-party thing that someone's installed. Okay, so if I have a look here, we can see we've got various different options here. So that's what I generally have it on, is the trip computer, and that will tell you miles per gallon. That petrol looking sign below it basically tells you what your miles per gallon is as you're accelerating, etc., you know, right there and then. That fluctuates all the time, and the other one's kind of an average miles per gallon over the period that this has been running for. Then it tells you how long the thing's been running since you last reset it. So I reset it only 15.3 miles ago. And of course, how much fuel you've got until you next need to fill up. That's the Ford Performance one with the launch control. So I've showed you, I think, or I may not have spliced it in yet, but we did a launch control, which kind of controls the revs and gives you best speed off the line, as it were. And other than that, it just gives you miles per hour and the little Ford Performance logo. And you can see, obviously, it's got that 30-mile-an-hour thing, so it's constantly telling you, you know, what speed you should be doing. Driver assist, we've got options in there for launch control, traffic sign recognition, lane keeping system, driver alert, which I've got it on. I don't know what it does. I think it rings an alarm if you're kind of getting dozy. I'm guessing it does that by if you start drifting lanes. Hill start assist, which I always have on, because that's gonna just keep the car under the brakes until you pull away if you're on a hill. And then your rear park. Navigation, which gives you pretty much information about your navigation system, Android Auto showing on there for the audio, phone device connected, so that's just giving you a bit of info about the phone, and that will allow you to have a quick look through your steering wheel controls of what you've got going on there. And I'm actioning all this off this piece here, so really easy to do. Settings for the car, so that'll give you info on the car. So you can get into your tyre pressures. My key info allows you to actually set up one of your keys to specific parameters. So if you were going to lend a car to one of your kids and you wanted to limit the speed, you know, to the speed limits that are set on the roads, then you can do stuff like that, and they won't be able to change it without you doing something to the my key that you set up. Not something I need, but it's possible. Settings for display, driver assistance, vehicle settings, we'll have a quick look in there. So then you can make alterations to the alarm, 30-minute max idle before it will turn off, chimes, lighting. So you've got very easy interfaces here, and then back to where we started again. Other than that, very basic interface, which I like on the dash, no problem at all. Then we come down here. That will give us our lighting stuff, so you can dial through. I've got it set on auto lighting at the moment, but there's all kinds of changes you can make to your dipped beams and stuff. It will actually auto dip the beams. I've got that set, so it's pretty clever. It knows when to dip them and when to put them on full beam when you're traveling around, so that's pretty cool. And then we've got all our cruise control stuff here, and some volume function there. Nice steering wheel, flat bottom to it, nice feel. I've heard a few people like moan about the feel. I really like it. Other than that, not much else to see up front. Got the glove. Pretty nice dash. The materials are all good. Nice sort of soft feel materials. Both of the sun visors have little lighting on the flaps on there. You've got this, which is a sort of auto dimming rear view mirror, which will stop you getting glare. I don't know quite how it works, but it does. And then behind that you've got the sensors for the rain sensor and stuff like that, so make sure you keep that part of the windscreen clean, because otherwise your rain sensor isn't going to work. And then you've got, nicely, a little sunglasses holder there, which you don't see on many cars these days. And that's about it, guys, for the tour of the inside of the car. I think it's great, really like it. It's just what I wanted, which is nice and easy to use with no hassle, not too much trickery, and nothing too complicated for me to learn, because like I said, I'm not a massive tech car nerd. I'm just a guy that likes driving, and I don't want to spend, you know, weeks learning this stuff.